Well, friends, you all are waiting for a video about long neck extensors. But I read the comments, what you write there, that he promises again and shows nothing, watch the next video again, and I thought, is it worth showing such an effective exercise maybe? No one is ready for this yet. Maybe it's worth saving these exercises for a more suitable time. And I made the difficult decision to show you all these exercises step by step, no matter how hard it was, no matter how hard it was to tear these unique developments from my own heart. I still decided to show you all these exercises, with which you can not only become more beautiful, healthier, richer, but also strengthen your most important long neck extensors, which we have talked about for so long, which we have dreamed about for so long. Who doesn't dream about good, powerful, long neck extensors? There are no such people. There are practically no such people in the Russian Federation. So I decided to show step by step, in detail, how to restore them. And in this video, you will see it and see all this firsthand. And you will see it and be able you should not only try all this now. What will be shown now? Now, you should not only watch all this. If you watched the previous video, you endured all this. How each muscle starts there. It attaches here if you had enough patience to watch all this. All these muscles, you had enough patience. 15 minutes, one video, second, third, short extensors. Then now you are obliged to do all these exercises. You have no one to dress up, but still obliged, because this exercise will allow you to get rid of problems, and those problems that are now with the neck, instability, neck pain, pain in the back of the head, dizziness, and those problems that have not yet arisen. This can occur due to the weakening of these muscles, as you're aware of the consequences of such weakness. Well, in the end, you watch. Watch. Don't even try, but do. Because since you wanted it for so long, since you dreamed about it for so long, here you go. You affect this entire area in between with the ball, the spine, and the scapula. This will include the middle trapezius and the rhomboid muscle and the long extensors of the neck located underneath them. The part that attaches to the odontoid processes. You affect it separately, the part that attaches to the ribs, which to the transverse processes. You detail this entire area. Should work through and there should be no painful areas left. Often, there is a tension area right here. That is, this is the place where the belt muscle of the head begins. You work through everything well in this place. Here is also the upper part of the rhomboid muscle, the small rhomboid muscle. You also affect it. Choose the size of the ball so that it is convenient for you and affect it in this way, either with these cross movements or with up and down movements. To start with, it's better to use a tennis ball, softer, then you can move on to harder ones. Treat both the right and left side. That is, in turn, first everything from one side, then everything from the other side. To completely remove the pain from this entire area, it may take about a week, and gradually you do it like this. First you start near the wall, and then you do the same thing lying on your back. Start by placing the ball near the wall and initially moving it from top to bottom. Somewhere from the area of the first thoracic vertebra to the area where the scapula ends, which is approximately the 6th, 7th thoracic vertebrae, you start to press everything through. At first, you can do it without movement. That is, you transferred the body weight back. Feel the pressure of the ball. Feel a slight pain. Then move it a little lower to another area, then even lower. And in this way, you will already roughly represent where it is more painful, where it is less painful. Where it is more painful, you hold. Then you start to make movements up, down, right, left. The entire area between the shoulder blade and the spine, you press through the entire area with the help of the ball. Use different movements to the side, left, right, up, down. Choose for yourself. In what way? Which angle will be better to affect a specific trigger point? Then you start doing the same thing lying down. Put the ball on the floor, or for starters, you can on some soft surface. And with the same area between the shoulder blade and the spine, you start affecting all these places with the ball. For starters, it's better to use a tennis ball because the pressure from it is not so strong, and gradually you work through everything here like this. Also, everything from bottom to top, from the area of the sixth thoracic vertebra to the area of the first thoracic vertebra. If the disease is severe, then to start with, just lie down, find the painful point and lie on it. Gradually, the pain will decrease. Then move to another place from the ball. The area of the long neck extensors, which starts from the cervical vertebrae, you affect it yourself with your hands. You take it in this way with your thumbs and apply pressure. This part of the long neck extensor, which is attached to the transverse process of the cervical vertebrae, you apply pressure to it. You apply pressure to the part that is attached to the spinous processes. This is how you apply pressure to it. You can also use your thumbs and at a 45-degree angle between them. On the area of the long neck extensors, which starts from the cervical vertebrae, from the spinous processes, from the transverse, you already affect with your own hand. You take and start affecting these muscles with your thumb at such an angle across the spine. You affect the attachment points to the transverse processes of the vertebrae and around them on the muscle itself. You affect these very muscles at various angles on the long extensors of the neck and on the part that is attached to the spinous processes of the vertebrae. You start massaging the muscle itself, the part that is attached to the transverse processes, the very jump of the muscle. There are several different muscles here. The belt of the muscle, heads, the belt of neck muscles, the longest muscles, semispinous. You affect all of them in turn. On the part that is attached both to the bony processes and to the transverse processes, you work through all of them. After we have affected all the attachment points of the long neck extensors, we start doing the exercise. Here in the exercise itself, it's important that during the movement, when you're extending your head back, you don't have a thrown back chin. Because if there's such a movement back, only the upper part of all these muscles will work. The short neck extensors will be engaged, and the lower part of the muscles, which is attached to the upper thoracic vertebrae and middle thoracic vertebrae, will not work. Only those muscles that start from the neck area will be engaged. That is, the muscle straps of the head will work, but the muscle straps of the neck will not. The first exercise you can start with is a static pressure exercise with the back of your head. For example, you can do it on your hand. That is, in this way you hold and press the back of your head back onto your own hands. You create pressure, hold it for 3 to 4 seconds, and then relax, press again and relax. Your extensors are simultaneously working from right to left. To train the right and left separately, turn your head so that your nose is at a 45-degree angle, hold your hands in the same way and press back. Hold the tension in the same way for 3 to 4 seconds, and only your right extensor will be working here. To train the left, turn to the left, press on your own hands in the same way, and the left one works. It's also important here not to lift your chin up, because then the lower portion of the muscle won't be involved. The same exercise can be done lying on your back. You lie down on your back, put a small pillow under your head, and instead of your own hands, you already will be creating pressure on the pillow. You press with the back of your head and relax. Before you start all this, you need to learn to do separate movements. when you extend your head relative to your neck and when you extend your neck relative to your shoulders. That is, you need to learn to do this movement because the movement, the pressure, should be exactly like this. That is, you should press with this movement and not with this one, so that the lower parts of the long muscles, which everyone has problems with, work for you. Usually the upper part works, but the lower part is very weak. After you've done this exercise about 3 times a day for a week, you can also do it, for example, in the car, pressing the back of your head against the headrest. It's better to start with 5 times in each position. Do one set for each 5 times when you look straight 5 times, to the left extensor 5 times, to the right. You can do 2 to 3 sets in total. After you've been doing this exercise for a week, you start doing the same exercise, but you start to load the muscles harder. You start doing this, training it in a stretched position. That is, if before you did it like this, pressing the back of your head from this position, now you slightly tilt your head forward. Not completely, not to the end, but approximately halfway through this movement. And from this movement, you start to create the same pressure, effort on your own hands in the same way. Same, around 3 seconds and you relax. You do the same thing for one extensor, for the right extensor in the same position, and the same thing for the left extensor. It's better to take a break between sets for different muscle parts. In this position, you pressed about 5 times, from 5 to 10 times, then rested. Then in this position, you did it about 10 times, and in this position as well, between 5 to 10 times based on muscle fatigue. Train like this also somewhere throughout the week. Then move on to an even more complex version of the same exercise when you fully straighten your head and start making efforts in this position. Here, the lower portion will be loaded more. Those that attach to the thoracic vertebrae will work more, and the muscles that attach to the cervical vertebrae will work less. Only proceed to this exercise when all prior ones are easily manageable. Here you fully tilt your head so that your chin almost touches your chest, and from this position, you make an effort. First in the position when you are looking down, then also 45 degrees to one side and 45 degrees to the other side, just like we do it. Straight, 45 degrees, and into this one. But you should only move on to this exercise after everything else comes easily. What is this for? This is necessary so that the muscle can work under conditions when your head is tilted like this. And we often find ourselves in such a position. When we're reading something, when we're eating. And in this position, the muscles have to withstand the load. That is, when the head is tilted down and we also turn it, nothing bad should happen. For this, these muscles have to work very well. After you have done this, move on to the next stage when you start to load the muscle in motion. From this extreme position, you start to straighten your head, straighten your neck. That is, from this position, you make such a straightening movement to the end. But at the same time, you see the head almost does not tilt back. There is no such movement. That's how you do it. And with this movement, you are training exactly that part of the long extensors that attaches to the thoracic vertebrae, to the ribs. And from this position, you extend your head, extend your neck. You can do the same for both extensors at once, separately for the left extensor, separately for the right extensor. You also choose the number of times from 5 to 10 times. There are trainers for neck muscle training, but you should only move on to them after you have done all these exercises. Mainly, these are block trainers. In the gym, there are 2 types of neck exercises. Not all gyms have block trainers. But the downside is that the muscle only starts to train after repeating a certain number of these muscle contractions. That is, it first has to get tired on the block trainer, and only around the 10th, 11th, 12th repetition does its training begin. But if there is instability, if there is some misalignment of the vertebrae relative to each other, all these repetitions, all these movements have a traumatic effect on the joints between the vertebrae on the spine itself. Therefore, first, you need to train the muscle to static load, only then give it dynamic load. Therefore, we first started in this position, then at 45 degrees, then in this position, and only then we start moving. We only start moving after this. After you have trained the muscle in this position, you can add a slight extension at the end point so that the upper part of the long extensor works for you. That is, add a slight extension, the one we didn't do from the very beginning. Only after you do the third part, the third type of exercise, and everything works out. After that, at the very end point, you can make a slight depression, a slight extension of the head. That is, first you have such a movement, and only in the final phase, you can add a slight extension. Not like you're making only this movement from the very bottom. That is, these movements, you will train only this muscle, the upper portion, the temporal muscle of the head if you do like this, as most of those who work out in the gym do. On another type of exercise machine with which you can train the neck muscles, there is a special cap that darn is tied, and often exercises are done incorrectly on it when the head only extends like this and trains only the upper bundle of all these muscles. But the movement should be like this. That is, the neck extensor, as we saw, is a fairly large muscle, a group of muscles, which goes to the thoracic vertebrae, and it needs to be trained in such a way that each of these muscles works fully. So, once again, before doing the exercises, we first get all these muscles in order, remove the trigger points. We do this for about a week. Along with this, you start the first type of light exercises, when you just press with the back of your head while lying down. It's better to start lying down. Lying down, you definitely won't do it wrong. Then you start at 45 degrees when you feel that everything becomes more or less painless. And then after some time, you start moving. The less painful these areas become, the more of your muscle starts to participate in the movement. There is another group of exercises, other recommendations, where they recommend pushing to the side, to one side, to the other side, forward. You should only move on to all these exercises after you have strengthened the long extensors of the neck, because they usually work the worst. And first, they need to be left alone. If you start training these movements in parallel, where the pectoral muscle and trapezius are involved, it can cause even more imbalance, even more instability. So first and foremost, you need to train the long neck extensors first. Another very convenient way to do all these exercises is not with your own hands, but using a towel. To do this, you take it in this way. The first type of exercise, you just press back, then slightly lower your head and press back. This is our second method. You can do the same separately to the right, separately to the left. And the third type, when you from this position do the extension backwards. In this way, you hold your neck. Here you can create a stronger resistance. Here it's important that this part of the towel is exactly on the back of your head, not up here. That is, you shouldn't do this and press down on your neck, but it should be right here. Your hands should be like this, and throughout, they should remain at the same angle relative to the head. And they look something like this. That is, you hold it like this, and from this position, start to extend your head back. With a movement like this. You can add a little extension of the head at the end point. In this way. The correctness of this exercise will be indicated when not only your neck muscles get tired, but also in the upper chest area. Somewhere from the area of the 5th, 6th thoracic vertebra and above, to the beginning of the neck, to the start of the first cervical vertebra. If this area gets tired, it indicates that you are doing it correctly, and these muscles are also involved in the work. And the next type of exercises, which you should only move on to after you have mastered all of this well, and you do not feel the strain from it. Well, in principle, this is necessary for those who play sports. For non-athletes, there is generally no need to strain the neck in this way. But an even greater load will be when you, if we previously resisted against the hands, overcame the resistance of the hands, then the next type of exercise is when you start to press the neck yourself. That is, you press the neck with your own hands and it tries to resist. That is, you no longer move the neck against the hands, but on the contrary, you move with your hands and as if overcome the resistance of the neck. That is, it turns out that from this final position, you push yourself through with effort. You make such an effort. But it's also important here that your effort is not directed here, not pushing your head into the spine, but the pressure should be perpendicular. In this way, downwards. I've already pumped up these muscles myself while showing. In this way, by gradually selecting exercises according to the state of your muscles, you can fully restore them. The sensation after performing these exercises will be, well, firstly, muscle fatigue, blood filling the muscles, like any other muscle. The main thing here is not to overdo it. If on the first day, you've never strained your neck before, if you overdo it on the first day, your muscles will ache, like any other. It might even be difficult to turn your head. Fear not, it becomes possible after a few days. But don't rush. Don't immediately switch to dynamic exercises. If you're new to static exercises, stick to them for a week or two. Only then switch to dynamics. Here is the long-awaited exercise for the long neck extensors that you've been waiting for so long. And as many thought that they would never be, but here they are.